So there you have it, guys. Your food-based source of essential minerals, zinc, copper, iodine, and selenium. Everything your body needs.
This is the
beautiful. Look at that. And you're good at that.
This is a sumptuous way to open them. Well, I've opened quite a few oysters. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Stephen Kavanagh, welcome to the show. It is a pleasure to have you here.
I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, and not only that, we're going to talk about oysters, one of my favorite topics, just because it's one of my favorite foods. But we're going to talk about oysters in a different way than people are accustomed today. So how are you here right now? What brought you to this world where we have this beautiful bottle of Oyster Max, not to mention the biggest oyster I've ever seen?
Yeah. I'm from Ireland, and I'm a marine biologist. I've been studying oysters now for 35 years. It's our work. And we started, my career at oysters started in hatcheries where we used to produce baby oysters for the oyster industry. And that led on to starting my own company to process oysters. And then in the early days, we smoked oysters. We made oyster pate, and then we saw we could get into dietary supplements because we had these.
So is that a grown-up oyster and that's a baby oyster? Tell me. Or is that just like a centenarian oyster?
If you leave this guy, this is what people are used to eating in a restaurant. If you leave this guy in the water for another 15 years, that's what he'll turn into.
So that's a 15-year-old oyster?
At least 15, maybe 20.
And how old is that one?
This one's probably 2.5, 3 years old.
Okay.
But this one's at reproductive age. It can reproduce. So from here on up. But this one, if you look at him there, you'll see all the lines like a tree. So they lay down lines every year like a tree. It's called dendrology.
Okay.
So oysters put down a line every year of growth. So we have these big oysters in Ireland that are a specific species.
And are those edible?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't eat
like an oyster steak?
I can't eat them like that. They're too big. It's like a turkey breast, this guy.
No kidding.
Yeah. Some people like eating them like that, but it's too big for me. But they're lovely.
Not raw. Maybe you could steam it with butter and wine and garlic or something.
Yeah, some butter, parmesan, black pepper on them is gorgeous.
Okay, we're transitioning to a cooking show right now.
Go down the gastronomy route. Well, I always tell people the best way to eat oysters is fresh.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Not everybody can get oysters. They're hard to get. They're hard to open. And people don't like the texture, the taste, whatever. So that's why Oyster Max was born.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Marine biologist, hatchery. How do we get to Oyster Max? Which, guys, we're going to talk about this supplement. It is amazing. But first, let's talk about how did we get there?
So we started processing. Like I've actually worked in Alaska and in the US and Oregon and Alaska for a few years. I went back to Ireland and started a company, and we started processing these big oysters because there was no market for them. We started smoking them, making smoked oyster pate. We ran oyster bars in the farmers' markets. We did all these things. Like I said, we're giving a talk later. The oyster is our world. We've been at it for a long time. We've done everything you could imagine. But then a French company contacted us to see if we could make this oyster extract because they saw a lot of detailed nutrition on our packaging. And they were wondering why we knew so much about oysters. And then we explained, and they said, can you make this for us? And the rest is history, as you say. We started making that product, and then we launched our own brand a few years later. And it's just grown and grown and grown. And it's really got traction now in the market because people have finally got what we were talking about from the very beginning about proper paleo nutrition and taking minerals not elementally but in synergy with each other, and a whole matrix of nutrients and minerals that your body needs in one supplement, as opposed to people go and want this and that synthetic
well, and it's natural, right? Like this is so this is a food-based supplement.
Food-based, yeah. It's a nutrient-dense superfood, really.
All right.
You know, we don't do anything to the oyster. As we say, the ocean is our laboratory. We do minimal processing. They're hand-filled capsules. There's no fillers, no bulking agents. It's 100% pure powder that's hand-filled because it doesn't flow. So we don't add, like most supplements that have magnesium stearate or silicon dioxide as flow agents. So we don't use that. We use a tamping tool and push it into the capsules.
Like you actually have people filling capsules?
Yeah.
How many people?
4 of us. I don't do it. One job in the factory I can't do. I have 4 girls. I can't do it. They're happy to do it. They make a couple of 100 bottles a day.
Really?
It's a small artisan production. We're not a huge, big company, and it's an art. We started in artisan food and gastronomy, and we've kept those artisan techniques in making our dietary supplements. So we don't freeze dry. There are other oyster extracts in the market, but they all freeze dry. We don't do that. We use a slow convection drying process to preserve bioactivity. We used alchemists from France, the French company we work with. They are actually alchemists, some of those guys. So they were using the Bova scale to measure the chi energy in the product, which was really interesting.
So what's chi energy? Let's talk to the audience about that.
Yeah. Well, everybody, chi, they use the Bova scale to measure the energy, the intrinsic energy in products, and they can raise it and so forth. Because in the very early days, we actually used, we had a problem with the slow drying process. There was high bacteria levels, and we sent some to a gamma irradiation chamber just to see how it behaved, and it sterilized the powder. Came back sterile, and I thought, that's interesting technology.
Yeah.
But when I mentioned to the French guys, they were like, absolutely no way. We don't want that. They said,
bad idea.
They said when a product has been irradiated, they can't raise the energy above zero. It's completely dead, and it's dead forever. So I was like, all right. So that was off the table anyway. And I tested them. I blind tested them with their Bovis, checking to see, and they got it right. I sent them 3 samples of 3 different processes, and one of them had been irradiated. And they came back to me and said, the first one is dead. We don't know what's wrong with that. And the other 2 were our processes. And they said they actually had the highest energy of a product they'd ever seen.
No kidding.
And that's the one we make now, yeah.
And how did you manage?
Over 10,000 Bovis units.
So Bovis is a measure of intrinsic energy in
of the chi energy in the product. Yeah, they call it different names, but it's non-physical science. It's not my area. I'm a scientist, and like we measure heavy metals, we measure minerals, vitamins, all that sort of stuff. But moisture, whatever. But measuring that was a new one by me.
Okay, but you mentioned the bacterial load. So how do you manage that if you're not able to irradiate it?
We manage it at very careful temperatures in the drying process and in the period, and that we've managed to, it's taken years to do it, and we've managed to get a process that works for us now. So it's a very dense powder. Because of that process, when you see stuff that's been freeze dried, it's very fluffy and light. And we tried freeze drying at the beginning too, and we just weren't happy with the quality of it. But a lot of people think freeze drying is a gentle process. It's not really. It's quite an aggressive industrial process.
Sure.
Because that process is sublimation. You've got frozen material hitting a hot plate that actually hops on it, it bounces on it.
Yeah.
You have little small home freeze dryers that look pretty and gentle. But at the industrial level,
it's a big deal.
If you're standing beside a freeze dry machine, the building is shaking.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, the first time I went to see one, we were going to get it contract dried at one stage, and I was like, I'm getting away from this thing. It's going to blow up. The whole thing was really, really, really aggressive process.
Too intense.
Yeah. So, but it's the difference between freeze-dried coffee and proper barista coffee, So
100%.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what's in there. What are the benefits to the consumer? Because I always think of Oyster Max as a really great zinc and copper supplement. There's a lot more to it than that. But let's even talk about zinc and copper in terms of ratios. You need to take it in a way that is an appropriate ratio for your body. Also a very bioavailable form. But tell us what's in there and why people...
So oysters, the biology of the oyster is really important in this, because an oyster has an enclosed circulation system. When people see the liquid in the shell, they think it's seawater, but it's actually a plasma that surrounds the oyster. And an oyster can survive for 4 weeks in that out of water. Okay, well, when it's in there, if bacteria get in, it releases antibodies to attack the bacteria, and then you get a metabolic burst of free radicals. So the oyster produces very high levels of superoxide dismutase to neutralize the free radicals. And that's a zinc copper superoxide dismutase that's 60% similar to human.
Wow.
Okay, so that's when we make the product, we have that zinc and copper in nature's ratio, the way nature intended it. And that's how we get our nutrition. We don't get it. We don't dig zinc out of the ground, out of a mine and eat it. We eat it from our food. But oysters are unique because of that unique biology of the oyster. They have 10 times more zinc than the next source, which is beef. Wow. Okay, but it's not just zinc. It's zinc in synergy with copper and manganese, which is really important, because the master antioxidants in our body are zinc, copper, manganese, metalloenzymes. So you've got superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione
Yeah.
Okay, and we've done research on our product and we've shown significant increase in superoxide dismutase from taking the product.
Wow.
We want to go back and do more human trials, but we are a small company and that's really expensive work to do. But the in vitro trials that we've done so far in human cell lines are really promising. And if you can increase or delay the reduction in superoxide dismutase in humans, that's at that core of the aging theory. Because free radical damage in the mitochondria results in less ATP being produced in the body, and that's the core of the aging theory, because energy starts to drop and that ATP is required for every reaction in the body. So the longer you can delay that or enhance it or improve it or whatever, you can do that. If you've got a product that can increase SOD in the body, human SOD, because there's lots of products out there selling SOD,
like delivering it
from melon or pumpkin, I think from melon seed and cucumber skin, but they're plant SODs. You know, if that SOD could cross the intestinal lumen, which it can't because it's too big of a molecule, if it could get into the bloodstream and be attacked, you'd have to attach a human antigen to it. So the companies are saying that that's not right. I've sat with professors of biochemistry and discussed this, and they said, no, that's not working. What's possibly happening is it's been broken into amino acids and peptides, and then they flip across the intestinal lumen, and the body can pick them up and make SOD quicker. It's human SOD. So that's what Oyster Max is. It's a matrix of amino acids and peptides with all the minerals your body needs, but they're in synergy. So it's like, the analogy I give is if I give you, I give you an engine, a transmission, seats, 4 wheels, and said make a car, you could probably put it together pretty quick. You know, something to look like a car. But if I gave you a bucket of nuts and bolts and said, now you have to make the engine first and then put it together, and give you bits of rubber and said you have to make the tires and all that. And that's a bit what it's like when you're taking synthetic minerals. Okay. The body has to make the peptides and the amino acids before it can put them together into the valuable enzymes and hormones and all the things that the body needs. But when you take it from oyster extract, they're already, the building blocks are there. Not the elements, not elemented, but actually blocks that are ready to go. So the body can put them together much quicker. And you get the effect then of all those really valuable macromolecules that are floating around the blood, the ones that we need to keep us healthy in that. And that's what the oyster extract is doing. It's we're providing that matrix of minerals, the minerals and vitamins in that matrix. So copper, zinc are really high in oysters. And we analyze our batches going back over 15 years ago. I have a new quality manager and she did an analysis on it. And the zinc copper ratio in oysters we do about over 20 years, we have 160 batches, sits at 11-1. Of zinc to copper in oysters.
And is that the ratio we want? I thought the ratio was more like 5-1.
Yeah, but that's nature's ratio. That's nothing to do with us. So that's what it is. So I've put that out there to people. I said, I have nothing to do with this. You can talk to the oysters. But that's what we analyze every single batch. We're very hot on analysis. We're the only company out there that I know who do that. So we analyze every single batch for copper, zinc, manganese, vitamin B12, selenium, iodine, because we can make a lot of health claims in Europe on these. We can make over 45 health claims on that product. And that's very unusual in a natural product. Because what actually happens in the business is somebody will take, say, 10 milligrams of synthetic zinc, put it in a tablet, and then make the zinc claims. But if you take zinc on its own, you can end up copper deficient.
100%. Okay?
Because that synthetic zinc pulls copper out of the binding sites in the body. So now you've got a copper deficiency problem and people end up with grey hair and their red cell count goes crazy. And we've seen a huge amount of this after the lockdown. So people were taking all these zinc lozenges and now they've got massive copper issues. Right. And bioavailable copper is not an easy one to get. You can get it in beef liver and stuff. But again, the oysters are really high in it. So 4 capsules of our product gives you quite a significant amount. You're a DRI on copper or organic copper. But again, because we analyze every single batch and put the real-time information on the bottle, people can dose accordingly.
Does it vary?
Varies.
Do you find
slightly.
A little bit?
Yeah, it's a natural product, so we can't standardize it. But what we do is we guarantee people a certain amount. So sometimes on the odd batch, we actually put a 5 capsule dose instead of 4.
Oh, no kidding.
Because the zinc drops in the summer sometimes. Yeah. And we say, well, because the zinc is dropping, we know we're getting more material. So we counteract that and we say, well, we'll make this a 5 capsule batch and then we can still make the health claims and people are still getting the same. Just have to take an extra capsule. But yeah, of course, we can't standardize a natural product. It's like, that's when you come to synthetic, they can put 10 milligrams of zinc, bang, every time in a capsule.
Well, I love that you you test every batch and you change the packaging every batch. That's fast. That's so smart. So
people are amazed by that. And other companies I've met.
Nobody does that.
No, they don't do that. No. It costs. It's significant. It's a significant cost, but therapists, this product is not out there in, in USA Walmarts or vitamin store. We're selling direct to therapists and practitioners, and we sell on our website, and people are using it therapeutically in their clinics and that to treat mineral deficiencies. I had one client came years ago, a guy from New York, and he said to me, he ordered a few bottles, and then he rang again and he ordered 20, and then he rang again and he ordered 50, and quite rapidly. And I was talking to him on the phone. I said, you shop then or distributor or what do you do? He says, no, I take it myself. And I said, you couldn't possibly be taking that much. He said, yeah, I take half to a full bottle a day. I said, what?
That seems like a lot.
Yeah, but he told me the story. He had chronic zinc malabsorption secondary to Crohn's disease. He was nearly dead. Lost all his weight, his hair had gone grey. And he said he found an article I wrote on zinc supplementation by dumb luck on page 3 of Google. Started taking high. The doctors could not get zinc into his body. They tried everything and he was dying because of it. And this guy worked in New York. He's an anomaly. I wish I had more clients like this, with all due respect to his health, but I've never had anybody taking that much of it. But he said within 6 months he cured his zinc absorption. He's 100% again.
And does he have to keep taking it though?
No, he doesn't order that often now. He's just taking the maintenance dose.
Really?
But he was taking huge amounts of it and he got his zinc levels back up. I met him in New York actually because they were going to import it. He thought he'd found the next Red Bull and he was going to make millions out of this, but his life took him in a different route, You'd
also need more than 4 ladies stuffing capsules if he took it to millions.
Well, possibly, But my experience tells me this is not a product that sells millions of bottles anyway like that,
Well, and I do want to say, to the audience that before you were to take a half a bottle or a full bottle, you'd want to be testing your levels to make sure that you need to keep an eye on these things, right?
He was it. No way. He was an absolute anomaly. I've never had any clients like that. A lot of therapists would be prescribing. So when I met the guy in New York, just to finish that story, big solid block of a guy, jet black hair. I says, hard to imagine whatever, he says, that product saved my life. He said, I can't believe it,
That's amazing.
But I would have now a lot of therapists and integrative practitioners prescribing, 16, 20 capsules a day because they can read the bottle and say, right, 4 capsules is given 3 milligrams of zinc. I want you to take 12, so take 16 of these a day. And they know they're getting high quality zinc. No. Well,
that's interesting, right? Because 3 milligrams is relatively low. And I would imagine that because it's a food-based supplement, you don't need the 20 or the 40 or the 60 of the synthetic.
Yeah, well,
it's the equivalencies aren't 1-to-1 based on versus the synthetic zinc that people are taking.
Of course, yeah. As I was talking to Chris Masterjohn, you probably know Chris, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Chris works with us, and Chris was telling me that the body can only absorb about 3 milligrams of zinc per meal.
Interesting.
So I was like, well, that's interesting. So why would you bother taking 25 milligrams of zinc?
Because it's not absorbed.
It can't be absorbed anyway. The receptors aren't there for it. So that was interesting. So 3 milligrams, taking 4 capsules a couple of times a day. If you can do that for a week or two to correct your imbalances,
Right.
And a lot of these people are going with, and there's very interesting synergies in it, like zinc, copper, manganese is a very interesting synergy. The selenium and iodine is a very interesting
for
one.
thyroid.
So, it's a huge area for us now is hormonal health. So a lot of therapists are putting women on high doses of this to correct hormonal imbalances. And again, they might do that for 2-3 weeks or 2 or 3 months even. And then it corrects everything and the cycles come back to normal and everything normalizes, and then they can stay on a maintenance dose,
I love it.
So the big areas for us would be fertility, skin conditions. Zinc, of course, very important for skin conditions. We're getting a lot of inquiries about bioavailable copper at the moment because people can't get it.
Yeah.
And they can't get their copper levels up. So that's big. Hormonal health is huge. Sexual health is a big area. Energy in general, zinc is really important for energy.
And immunity. You mentioned it yourself earlier.
Like zinc controls about 200 enzyme reactions in the body. So people say to me, what's it good for? I was like, just take your pick.
Everything.
Yeah. Like the World Health Organization estimates 80% of us are mildly zinc deficient. You don't really see severe zinc deficiency in meat eaters. But vegans and vegetarians have to be careful with zinc and B12. But this is really high in B12 as well. And nearly half your DRI of B12 in 4 capsules. It's off the scale. Shellfish, oysters and mussels are really high in B12. They're really good. And even some of the vegan societies in America have said you can eat oysters because they're not animals. They have no nervous system. Now, I'm a shellfish biologist, so I have issues with that.
All right. Well,
but they know that their members need to get those two elements, which are zinc and B12, and they'll get problems if they don't have them in their animal source. So it can be hard. You're going to be very careful with those diets to make sure you're getting that right, that nutrition.
Love it. All right. Well, where do people find you? Tell us, how do people get their hands on your magic?
On the beach looking for oysters.
Well, no, okay. Let's say not you. Where do they find Oyster Max?
We brought fresh oysters. You're going to have you time for a quick one?
I have time. We can finish off with a fresh oyster. Okay. I will never say no to a fresh oyster.
Unfortunately, I couldn't bring oysters from Ireland. We're not allowed to export live shellfish to the US.
Okay.
Let's hope I do this now, right?
And so while we're doing this, the website for the product.
Oh, yeah. Marine Health Foods.
Marine Health Foods.
Marinehealthfoods.com.
Yeah.
And we sell online. We ship globally.
Love it.
And for the US, we could be here in 4 or 5 days. No problem. Lemon?
Please. This is exciting.
So
this is the best part of being a podcast host. I'm just going to say.
I'm just going to get something here. So we couldn't bring Irish oysters, but these are cushy oysters from British Columbia.
Thank you. Oh, my home country. So that works.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. We'll try that.
Thank you. Here we go. Am I waiting for you? Are you going to join me or am I going in alone?
Sure, why not?
So there you have it, guys. Your food-based source of essential minerals, zinc, copper, iodine, and selenium. Everything your body needs.
This is the...
Beautiful. Look at that. And you're good at that.
This is a sumptuous way to open them. Well, I've opened quite a few oysters. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much.